Hey everybody, Nico aka Scarlet Moon back here again so soon. I literally just wrapped up the video on dimensions earlier, and I kind of got so into the talk about density in the middle of that video that I kind of realized that it needed to actually have a video all its own, and what that has to do with our understanding of the change in our own conscious and spiritual paradigm, but, the experience itself, but also how it affects our timelines, how it affects our quality of life, how it also affects our ability to come into a more empowered and realized state of creator being consciousness. As we've transcended, as far as the world has kind of transcended, the earth has moved and transcended. Again, check out the dimensions video for more info on that. Things have changed as far as function is concerned. Now, remember, this does not necessarily apply, in a way where it replaces any of your spiritual or religious beliefs, affiliations, or connections, but this may change how you approach them. Okay, so as the collective itself has kind of been riding the planet into this change of being, this change of expression from a single-dimensional expression to a five-dimensional Earth expression, which is basically where we are. 5D Earth expression. A lot of things have been going on that a lot of people are not acutely aware of yet, though you may be aware of some symptoms or some occurrences or happenings that are contrary to what you have come to expect from, say, a 4D or 3D experience on Earth or your own spiritual consciousness, okay? And this is going to be very, very heady. This is not a race. We're all on this planet, so, we're all going to get there eventually. But we've actually experienced a couple of changes in terms of how things respond to us spiritually. So we want to talk in the beginning about spiritual resonance and response. So we're just going to say R and R. There are a couple of things that, used to work, I guess you could say, as a function, as a process in a realm where there was duality, light versus dark, positive versus negative. In fact, we can actually say that duality itself, in such a way, is actually no more. It's gone. So, when it comes to spiritual practitioners, people working on their path, working on healing, working on their clearing work and things like that, we're kind of in a space where trying to cleanse or banish negativity or clear ourselves and, to bring in positivity and all of that as such, again, from a very dualistic mentality or a state of separation, it's not as effective. It doesn't seem to work. The clearings, the healings, all working within that paradigm are limited in terms of their returns at best. Why aren't they working as effectively? The truth of the matter is that we've actually left duality behind. So what we're dealing with, or what we're actually confronting now, is the resonance and response to, instead, levels of density. We've actually moved on. The empty, inert vessel or material of energy from the previous, I guess you could say, dimensional experience. When a person is going through an awakening process, an ascension process, a clearing process, a lot of that material, that energy from their own individual experience, their own past paradigm, is actually rendered inert. Old thought forms, old patterns and things like that. These old inert bits of junk that seem to just sort of linger in the energy field, okay? They're just kind of sitting there. They're not necessarily like bad or good. The way I would describe them is almost like just hollow. The way they look to me, when I visualize them, they kind of look like just hollow chunks of, say, glass, something transparent, just something that's waiting to be filled. It's got some, old coding, old programming in it that's kind of left over from the past, but it's just kind of sitting there in the energy field. And what happens is when we're trying to make something like duality work, in a place where we are all going through this sort of global transition, is that we're not actually getting rid of the density. We are dealing with a situation where we are either filling or clearing the energy vessels. We're actually just filling or clearing the junk. Now, what happens is as we are working on filling and or clearing the junk in our system, we energize it temporarily. And so it kind of feels like we're making progress, but that junk itself does not hold that vibration for very long. It does not hold that energy for a consistent amount of time that actually manifests or creates a change at all. Now, this can indicate, again, we talk about, say, duality. We're talking about lower, again, third dimensional, fourth dimensional frequency associations with things like light and dark. There is such a thing as third dimensional light versus, say, fifth dimensional light, or fourth dimensional light versus fifth dimensional light. So when we talk about trying to fill these vessels, even with positive energy, so let's say, we've got 3D light in here, which has its own function, or had its own function and its own purpose as it is, that vessel only holds it for so long. The vessel itself is just, again, it's just junk. It's kind of like, it's almost like just material that you're carrying around in your energy field. It's material that the earth is carrying around in its energy field. And what happens is that, again, that energy will start to do some funky stuff in there. And a lot of the time, it does not actually stay clear and clean and, in that light process for long. Because what happens when energy sits still for too long? If energy is not put to use, if it's not part of the flow of the universe, it starts to stagnate. And what happens is that when things start to stagnate, they start to go through a bit of a destructive process, right? They start to break down. There's a decomposition of that energy. So it's almost like we're bringing it in, but it's like putting stuff in your fridge and letting it go off. So that energy starts to go off in these vessels. Okay, that energy starts to go off in you, it starts to go off in the earth, it starts to go off in the collective. And then we have to, again, we what do? We rush through and we clear. We cleanse, we cleanse all the negativity because now it's become negative because it's stagnated for too long. And then we repeat the process over again. The issue comes with the density, though, because all of a sudden we're stuck. Our timeline is frozen. That weighs us down as well. That limits us. Because this also creates density within our energy field. And when our energy field becomes dense, then we start to encounter resistance. It becomes harder to move from certain spots when it comes to our life experience. We find ourselves maybe stuck in the same pattern when it comes to what we can and can't create for ourselves, where we have success versus where we have setbacks, where we repeat history. And so there's an interesting sort of turnaround going on right now where we don't want to focus so much on the light and the dark. We want to focus on the density. So let's say we have two dudes here. We'll have Isaac and Neil. Okay, so Isaac. What happens on the individual level is that, a dense vibration starts to actually have a lot of gravity to it. There's the density pulls in all kinds of energy streams, all kinds of vibratory frequencies, not necessarily helpful or harmful. It's just almost too much. And so let's say Neil is in a space where he has a lot of that spiritual density going on. He still has a lot of old paradigm, old issues maybe unresolved problems, you know, and he is, let's say he is actively spiritual, but he's got all of this stuff in his system, right? So what tends to happen is when Neil decides he wants to cleanse, he wants to clear, you know, however he's going to do his clearing work and his cleansing work, he seems to be just washing the dense material and again going through that same process. And Neil doesn't seem to be going anywhere. He doesn't seem to be getting onto any kind of, you know, I guess you could say, higher timelines. He doesn't seem to be going in the direction he wants to go. In fact, what can often happen with a lot of these kinds of things in your, you know, they're not going to show up as little balls, but a lot of this dense material in your system is that it also limits your ability to tap in, to create, to perceive, to see truth in existence for what it really is. You know, you're limited in terms of what you can create. It's kind of like a person who doesn't know anything else besides what's in here can't conceive of creating a boundless or limitless reality or existence for themselves, much less achieve it if they're still carrying all of this stuff. Because this stuff in your energy field is going to, again, it's going to set you off. It's going to make you think certain things. It's going to make you work through certain patterns. It's going to make you easier, you know, to, I guess you could say, it make it easier for you to gravitate people and circumstances and things that are resonant, again, with that stuckness. But, so let's say Isaac has some of that density, you know, in him, right? And say some of that density is a match for, you know, what Neil is carrying as well. That actually does activate. That actually creates an activation. And so what you can see is with that activation, programs start to run. And when I say programs, you know what I mean. I mean thought patterns, I mean behavioral patterns, emotional patterns. Those things start to run as if unconsciously. Those start to sort of trigger. And because, you know, again, there's no clearing going on, you know, there tends to be more energy going into those programs. More energy going into those experiences from both of them. And, you know, what happens is they kind of keep themselves down and suffering. They keep themselves down. Now, it's not that that Neil is making life miserable for Isaac, or Isaac's bringing out a bad experience in Neil. It's not like that at all. But it's just a result. It's an indifferent result. But we have this response that goes on where, again, there's no clearing going on. There's no clearing happening, just sort of a remote activation on both sides. And the best way for them to kind of, again, work on this for themselves, or again, get into a higher state, so they aren't having to suffer limited experiences, dead ends, and of course repeat cycles, because basically that old material, that old junk, even, you know, in a 3 or 4D experience, only knows how to do what it does. And it creates, again, those cycles, those patterns. And so what happens is that when they're around each other, their density starts to become activated. They start to run those old programs again. And they might actually also notice that that density is fighting against other vibrations that they want to have. Maybe it's stopping Isaac from, you know, finding the girlfriend he wants to find. He always falls into the same pattern. Maybe there's something that he's trying to work on in himself and the way he communicates. Maybe there's something going on where, you know, we kind of notice that maybe he's just having a hard time being assertive, and that, you know, that really resonates with some of the junk going on inside Neil. And so the more they're around each other, the more that expression, well, expresses. No amount of just cleansing the negativity or purging and exorcising and banishing the evil is going to make a difference here, because it's not about good or evil. It's about density, which is creating dis-ease. Now the cool thing is, clearing density, as I said in my video on the first 7, you know, dimensions of consciousness, is that all it takes to clear density is just a shift in your attention and intention. Moving your energy from a focus on light and dark, good and evil, to a place of non-judgment, right? Pure divine neutrality. and just focusing on clearing the density, right? It's like if I were going to clear the scraps of paper off the ground from my little earth representation cutout. I'm not judging them, right? I'm not calling them good or evil. I'm just picking them up and clearing them away. And you can set your intention in a number of different ways. You can call upon, again, whatever higher power you work with. If you have a higher power, I mean, they're there to help. You probably have easier access to them now that we're actually going through this transcendence process. So you might find yourself in a situation where, yeah, if you want to call upon a higher power for assistance, they're there for you. They're closer, in a sense. They're more easily accessible. But what happens here is that, we'll take Isaac again. Let's put his name down here. So we'll take Isaac again, and Isaac is basically like, look, I'm going to be working on clearing this density, right? I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to sit down and analyze it. I'm not going to sit down and go, okay, this is the doubt from the time that, Cindy turned me down for the winter formal in high school. And, don't go back and relive the experience. Don't go back and fuss over it or think about the damage it caused or what string of events you think could have sprung forth from it. Look at it as it is, right? It's a piece of information. It's just junk material. It doesn't vibrate anything. You can clean it so it's a polished bad picture, or you can dirty it up so it's a dirty bad picture. But it's not actually serving you. It's just got to go. All right? And again, it doesn't belong anymore. You can, call in. All right? You can actually get centered, get into a very meditative state. However you want to call in, I guess you could say your higher divine creator self. I like to tap into source, or maybe I'll call upon, deities that I work with that I know are on that higher level. Right? It's not about calling in like demons or familiar spirits. Again, that's a lower fourth dimensional, presence. That's not really something that, we're going to be working with here. Goodness knows that's probably also in the junk. But we're dealing with, again, this, we're dealing with calling in energies that are higher than the third and fourth dimensional experience that we've had. Because what we're doing is we're flushing it out. We are clearing the density. So, what we can do is basically, all right, we get into our heart center, right? We focus on activating our heart center. We bring all of our focus and our consciousness to the heart center, all right? And why we focus on the heart center instead of the crown? Well, in a sense, the crown itself is really just sort of an opening, right? It's part of the channel or the vehicle to higher consciousness. The heart is your personal connection to source, your personal connection to all of the part of source that is expressing itself through you, and also a connection to source. So essentially this is your personal line, okay? This is for everybody else. This is for source in terms of spiritual contact. So basically what ends up happening is that we get into our heart center, and then we actually send that intention of, again, just clearing the density. You can specify, I clear myself of the, cleanse it. I cleanse and clear and, remove from myself any and all third and fourth dimensional expression, energy form, and density. And that's basically it. It's very, very simple. And what you do is at that point, you actually send that intention. You can visualize this intention going up through your crown, all right, through the many layers of, other dimensions themselves, all right. I like to look at it almost like you're folding back many, many curtains, or you might think of it like, maybe separating waves of water and opening up, sort of a spout in that sense. It's not really a portal as such. It's really just sort of, again, it's clearing all density up and all density down. You're also sending that intention down, all right? And again, we're clearing, and we actually then pull down that energy from source, God, universe, spirit, however you want to describe it, however you want to title them. Or again, if you know of a higher power, that's again, that could be an angel, that could be an ascended master, that could be, a deity that you resonate with. And you call in and you say, I pull into my heart center, the higher energies of source consciousness or this higher power. I call in the higher light, the deepest higher light, the source higher light, and I anchor it into, I say anchor, I got that from Sandra Walter, she says anchor a lot. So I anchor it into my heart chakra, I anchor it into the core of the earth, and then you just breathe it out and expand. You can expand it out like an expanding bubble, going in all directions. And I get pretty creative with my visualizations. I like to think of the density not only just sort of like, I don't see it flying off in chunks, but what I actually see is like it's sort of rippling off, okay? And rippling out and rippling away. All of that density, because it's inert. There's nothing valuable there anymore. It's like you don't even have anything to plug it into anymore. You can't make it happen. And so what you're going to end up doing is after that, Isaac's going to end up feeling very, very free. He's gotten more of that density off. What's cool is he's also actually sending that energy into the earth to also release density that's been embedded in the earth, okay? Releasing density that's gotten dislodged from the earth, all of the lower third and fourth dimensional energy. And you could do this sitting down, you can do it standing up, but it's a good practice to get into because you're going to notice it's strange. It kind of goes out on the exhale, and it ripples out almost like a sound wave, and you really do actually notice that, again, whatever you could not cleanse or clear the old way is gone. You also notice, again, your timelines are starting to change. You are starting to notice now all of a sudden, no, suddenly this resonates with me again and it's coming back around for another try. This is suddenly working for me once more. It's coming back around. I get to do it again. Or that thing I was dreading. Look, I avoided it. And all of a sudden there's a big shift here. And so you just have to relearn how you work. Because again, you were always here, but clearing this density, clearing these timelines is also going to be good, not just as a service of self, but service to others. Because what's going to happen is as you clear, right? Again, you're clearing the doubt, you're clearing the density. You'll also learn how to clear it from space, clear it from the earth itself. All the old histories, all the old timelines, all the old, again, dense material junk that's basically just like playing itself out, almost like somebody threw an iPod, the trash, and a song started playing. Get it out, just clear it all out, okay? And this is how you have a clean, fresh start. And everyone wants to actually be able to have that. And this is something, again, this is not a replacement for healing. This isn't going to, you still have to do the healing work when it comes to any kind of issues that you're dealing with when it comes to, say, your health or your emotions, and your psychology, of course. Take proper steps for therapeutic healing. But when it comes to the energetic density, getting away from the duality paradigm and just purging the density, you're also going to be noticing a change in the experience of others around you. And the more of us get on this, the easier it's going to be for everybody. So what ends up happening here is that, again, if you're trying to do it to your space, let's say you wanted to do it for your house or your yard. Here's a tree. So, okay, here's Isaac again. Isaac's the hero of the story. So Isaac's going to work on purging the density, right? We think of purging density, he's not going to blow up the yard. That's not what's going to happen, all right? Because all of these things have now moved into a 5-dimensional expression as well. All right, so we're just clearing the 4D from the tree, clearing the 3D from the tree, clearing all of this stuff. We're in another state. So what ends up happening here is that, again, now Isaac can use prayer, he can use oil, he can use candles, he can use sage or sound or clap or just his visualization. It doesn't matter at this point because all of those things still vibrate, with the same encodements and the same resonances they did before. But now they're serving only to create. They're not serving to imbue good versus evil, light versus dark. All they do is now create or clear density. So shifting his attention and his focus to that, right, we want to make sure that we're able to actually, again, make sure that he's clearing. Isaac can, I had to grab this off the ground. So shifting his attention to that, you know, Isaac will then, again, do what we saw before. He's going to basically open up his heart, you know, open up, get into his heart center, bring his focus to his heart, and he's going to focus his attention and his intention on, again, clearing the density of the third dimensional and fourth dimensional densities and experiences. All of it, okay? All of it, everything. And what ends up happening is that, funny enough, he actually does a lot more than just clear the negativity. Because when he gets himself into that, again, that connection, that higher power connection, you know, he doesn't even have to, you know, give a second thought to any of the negative thoughts that come up. You know, sometimes there can be negative judgmental thoughts, you know, oh, this is evil, oh, I'm suffering. Don't dwell there, don't think about it, don't judge what you're dealing with right now, because this only stays open in a place of, again, true divine neutrality. So we don't want to go into a place, again, where we're thinking of negativity or we're thinking of judgment. So what we do is we clear, right? We're opening up, we're calling in that, you know, God, source, I am, divine, higher power, energy, whatever. And then we're calling it down into himself. And again, without judgment, he's just clearing the density, all right? We're just clearing away. We're not even focusing on, if a negative thought comes up, just let it go. Come back, you know, if you get a negative thought and say he's like, you know, I'm clearing the density of the third dimensional and, you know, and fourth dimensional experiences, I hate my ex-girlfriend or something. No, don't worry about it. Okay, you had the thought, whatever, let it go. Focus on the clearing of the density in the fourth, you know, and third dimensions. Because when you clear the density, the negative vibrations that you would associate with that kind of thought, or even dangerous thoughts or harmful thoughts, get neutralized. As long as he doesn't spend so much time analyzing the thoughts or empowering the thoughts, he's not going to create an experience that he doesn't want. Again, there's no density for that anymore, so it can't really hold. It's not going to find a new vehicle. He's not cursing the land, but also at the same time, the energy that he's calling in is immediately neutralizing it, because again, technically those thoughts, those kinds of hostile or negative or judgmental thoughts, don't have anywhere to vibrate to anymore. You know, people recreate the experience with the density that they have. They don't actually, once the density's gone, they can't create anything with it. So clearing the density clears the negativity. It's like a sponge. If you're, you know, you can wring a sponge out so many times, but sometimes it's just better to throw the sponge away. So we clear that energy, right? He's calling it in. Say he's going to be working with, you know, oil. He's going to be doing oil. So he's got like, let's say he has an anointing oil, all right? And so he wants to, say, anoint the house, okay? And he's going to anoint the tree, and he's going to anoint the yard, whatever. And as he does, he's basically, again, putting that intention, opening and pushing in that higher light into, again, to clear and remove the density of the, again, third and fourth degree experience, of the third and fourth dimensional experience. And what happens is we actually see, again, that density kind of dissipates. Now, this is, you know, as we are in this space right now of people kind of just starting to understand this, they're starting to clear the density. You know, sometimes that density is going to come back up from out of the earth. You know, sometimes that density is going to, you know, be deposited by other people. Again, like we saw in the other example, it's okay, you know, just again, refresh. You could use bells, you can use prayers, you can, whatever you want, as long as those prayers are not, again, issuing judgments or, again, you know, cursing or anything like that, because again, those aren't going to work. No judgment, they're just not going to work for you. You're going to be very disappointed. And so what ends up happening here is that by clearing the density, all right, not only are we removing the repeat experiences of, say, more injurious old paradigms, but we are also removing the vehicles that negativity would actually inhabit and then create a pattern of experience for you. So yay. So I hope you found this helpful, guys. If you did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You know I appreciate it. Go out and try this in your backyard. Go out and try this, you know, heck, just try and do it for the land. Do it for the earth. Go do it in a park. Do it for people. You know, try and do it as much as you can, you know, to not only clear yourself, but also at the same time, let's just kind of all move away from, again, the ghost-like state of a repeating pattern lock. So that is what I've got for you guys. Spiritual density and timelines. Thank you so much for stopping by. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you have yet to check out the dimensions video, dimensions 1 through 7 of spiritual consciousness, please do. I'll talk to you later.